great.
Thank you, Travis. I got Trappy to say that I've had a big day because I did ask Mihail and ANZAC and Jacob to give me a hand, but they said they've had a big day, so they didn't want any more pressure on top of their training. I've got to do a smoking ceremony now. It's a smoking ceremony that our elders have carried out for thousands of years. And one of the things about the smoking ceremonies is it gives us the edge, but it builds our spirit up. And what's significant about it is it brings us together as one. Last year I did a couple of smoking ceremonies for footy teams, and they won the week after. And I said, look, it's not going to win the game for you, but it will bring you together as one. The oil I'm using is oils that made from the elders make it in Central Australia, and it's made from plants and leaves. They won't tell me how they make it though, and but they sing they do a ceremony for the oil, so it's an oil that will, you know, hopefully give you the edge. Can I call Mihail and ANZAC and Jacob to come here, because they have got a job for you? Come on, Mihail, I know you're shy. I just want you to play these taps. When you play the tap sticks, you play those ones. What that does is that calls on the spirits and the spirit of the earth. So just tap it with only a beat. Like I said, this is a ceremony that's, you know, thousands of years old, which is a special oil made by the elders. I really like doing smoking ceremonies because it picks my spirit up also. And thank you. I was talking to some adults recently about spirit, and a fella said, I don't believe in that spiritual stuff. And later on that day I heard him talking, and he said, I think the reason our footy team lost on the weekend was no team spirit. And I was thinking, gee, that sounds like the same thing. I'm just going to conduct a welcome to country, and I'm going to do a welcome to country because my grandmother, Linda Walker, was a Kaurna elder. So on my grandmother's side is Kaurna from the Adelaide area. My grandfather, he comes from down along the Coorong, which is the Ramangeri country. And he was quite famous because he was part of the Nunanjeri, which is around Murray Bridge. The Nunanjeri Anzacs, and in 1914 he wanted to go and fight for Australia and join the Australian Imperial Forces. But those days Aboriginal people weren't allowed to enlist in the Australian Imperial Forces. They weren't counted in the census, and but he had a white mate, and he said to his mate, look, I'd like to fight for Australia. And his mate said, I don't think they'll let you. But then he heard that his other mate had a mate who was an enlisting officer down at Keswick. So they spoke and they said to him, look, we're going to enlist down at Kingston and down in the southeast. Go down there, but when you enlist, you're not to say you're Aboriginal and you're not to say you're married. And he was both. And what was significant, it was a lot of young fellas who were enlisting at that time, but he was 32 years old. And so he joined the Australian Imperial Forces, joined the 10th Battalion, and just as he was ready to go to leave to go to Gallipoli, my grandfather was born, and he was born on the 25th of April 1915. So they called him Anzac. And so Arthur Thomas Walker went off to Gallipoli. That's my great-grandfather, and he was in the infantry. What was significant was, when he did go to Gallipoli, even though he was Aboriginal, once they put the uniform on, the khaki, they were all as one. And he was known as a hero because he got into trouble a few times, because at that time in Gallipoli, you know, the conditions were tough, and one of the rules was if someone was wounded, you couldn't go and get him, because if you went to get him, you'd probably get shot yourself. And but he broke a lot of rules, and he'd sneak out and bring in the wounded. And And he said, why wouldn't he? Because they were his mates. After he survived Gallipoli, after Gallipoli, they were all transferred and went to Egypt. And they all got into trouble in Egypt because they went missing for a few days. And they went to the bars and the nightclubs and the pubs. And why wouldn't they? You know, the experience they had in Gallipoli. They did some more training in Egypt. Then most of them transferred into the 50th Battalion, and then were transferred to France on the Western Front. And in late 1916, he sent a letter to his mum, and he said, "Look, I'm more or less saying goodbye because I'm being transferred to the front line." And in August 1916, he was reported missing in action, and didn't come home. And what we've done to honour him is we name a boy in each generation ANZAC. So now for the welcome. It's important, you know, some people do acknowledgement of countries, and that's good too, but because my grandmother's Kaurna, I can do a welcome. So on behalf of my grandmother, Mabel Walker, who was a Kaurna elder, and all the Kaurna elders, both past, present and emerging, and I like to say emerging because it's important that we prepare the younger people for the future, and because one day you will be our leaders. And I think it's significant that we're doing a welcome here at Sturt Footy Club, because a lot of young fellas and adults look up to you fellas, and if you fellas can be leaders in the community, that builds a greater society. And so I'm going to sing a welcome song now, and this song was taught to me by my grandfather. His grandfather taught him, and his grandfather taught him, and so on and so forth. And this song is a spiritual song because we're spiritual people, but again it's about coming together as one and building our spirit up. We believe there are bad spirits out there, and those bad spirits look for people that are vulnerable, and you know, make them feel ill, sometimes make them do bad things. So this song scares off the bad spirits and builds our spirit together as one. That song is important. In the welcome, I'll just say a few words in the traditional Kaurna welcome. Yinamani, Mania, Noga, Gunya, Marindi, Kumaku, Chuwilla, Chilruki. Chuwilla is spirit, the spirit of the land. And, you know, we believe the land is spirit, we have a connection. Chuwilla, like I said, the spirit, and I think the more we learn about Aboriginal culture, it just makes us more Australian. And I think, you know, there's a human tendency to look at differences in culture. But I think as human beings, the more we learn about each other, just shows us the more we got in common. And there is some differences in culture, but once we build that common ground, we're not fearful of the differences. And Chilruki is a traditional story, so we believe he's the creator of this area. And that story though, but if we learn some of the traditional stories of the country, it helps us be more connected to land and build our spirit up. Thank you for listening to me. It's a great honour to be here this evening, and in our family we've been Sturt supporters for a number of years, so for a long time. And like I said, this will help you win, but you've got to play as a team and listen to the coaches, and success will come. Thank you.